Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to USTA Florida's Here to Serve podcast. My name is Laura Bowen, and I'm the Executive Director at USTA Florida, and April is one of our favorite months. It's Autism Awareness Month, also known as Autism Acceptance Month, and I am here with some of my favorite people. Today, I am joined by Lisa Pugliese-LaCroix, and she is going to be my co-host today. She is the founder of Serving Autism, and she's been an amazing partner with us for several years now. Lisa, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Laura, for the invitation.
Joining Lisa and I today are two of our superstars of the show. We have Felicia Katz and Ethan Katz. Felicia and Ethan are participants in Lisa's Serving Autism programs, and Ethan actually has autism, and Felicia is his mom, so they're going to give us their perspective today on some of our questions about tennis for people with autism. So thank you both for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. So I want to take just a moment to learn a little more about each of you and how you came to be introduced to tennis. So Lisa, you shared your story before, but maybe we have some new listeners. So if you could share your story again about how you came to be introduced to tennis and how you came to start Serving Autism.
Thank you, Laura. I actually grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. I was around 5 years old when I picked up my first tennis racket and started playing for fun. And, you know, I'm in my 40s now, so that calculates the number of years I've been playing tennis quite a lot. And I played in, juniors and in the state of Florida and in college and a bit on the tour, and was sidelined by an injury. And now I'm a speech and language therapist for about 19 years. So that was my career following tennis, and connected the dots when I was working with another nonprofit organization, based in Los Angeles, and thought, wow, we really need more programming here in the state of Florida for children and adults with autism and developmental challenges. So I started Serving Autism in January 2017 at the school where I was working as a speech and language therapist. And 5 years later, we're here, and we have around 28 locations in Florida and about 6 out-of-state locations now. With the support of USTA Florida, it's made all the difference for us, so we thank you.
Well, you've done so much on your own. We're so proud to partner with you. Felicia and Ethan, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be introduced to tennis, and what's your tennis story?
Sure. Well, first, I just want to say that we are huge fans of Lisa and Serving Autism, as well as USTA, obviously. I'm not sure if you're aware that we were actually at the US Open with you all. Yes. And Ethan had an amazing experience there.
Great. And it was also my first time in New York, so that was fun.
Right. I'm sure that was exciting.
Right. I was introduced to tennis probably at summer camp. Also, my cousins and my great uncle were very good tennis players. I think both of them played in college, if I'm not mistaken. And I really should have done my homework before I got and then mentioned them. But anyway, it's in our family, definitely tennis is in our family. And when Ethan was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when he was in second grade, we started to participate in ABA therapy, which I know is a little controversial, so I don't really want to talk about that too much. But some families that we met while we were there mentioned some programs, and Serving Autism was one of them. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for Ethan to A, learn tennis, and B, learn some social skills and things of that nature. And it has been an amazing experience. So getting a little emotional. Sorry.
Yeah. And now every Saturday I play tennis.
Sunday, but yes.
That's what we like to hear.
Every weekend. Yes, exactly.
So April is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. I use both terms because I know some organizations use awareness and then some use acceptance. So I wanted to make sure I was, using everything possible because I'm still learning. But I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about why it's important important for us to create more awareness and acceptance around people with autism? And Felicia, I thought maybe I'd start with you and Ethan for this question.
Sure. Ethan, do you want to say something, or do you want me to set the stage?
This is kind of a sore subject.
No, it's not a sore subject.
For me, it is.
Okay, well, let me set the stage, and then you can go forward. So, I think obviously the first step in anything is awareness, but then awareness isn't necessarily enough. And that's where I think some organizations have leaned toward the word acceptance instead, or in addition to. I mean, you can't be accepting something unless you're aware of it. So they go hand in hand, but it's much more important to include acceptance, because there needs to be so much, not tolerance necessarily, but love and inclusion for not just kids on the spectrum, but for all differences.
Like races and disabilities and
all
superpowers.
I love that term.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I think that, and just to sort of shed some light on Ethan's evolution with his own disability, which we find is a superpower. Well, okay. When he was asked to put on prepare a speech for an audition for something, it was about, the theme was a lesson that you learned. And what he conveyed in his speech very eloquently, I might add, was that just because you have a disability and you are different doesn't make you any less than. And in some cases, like in Ethan's, it has actually been a superpower for him. And I'll let him share that.
Yeah, tell us about your superpower. I want to hear.
Well, I have a thing called hyper-focusing, where I focus on one thing and one thing only. So like video games, YouTube, this call, and stuff like that for a certain amount of time that isn't really defined.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I can't focus on anything else during that time.
So for instance, because he's able to hyper focus on something, coding, for instance, he was light years ahead of his class, because he was very interested. Obviously it has to go hand in hand with what your interests are, but his ability to hyper focus enables him to learn things much faster, and to be better at them in a much faster pace than some of his peers. And he has a lot of gifts because of his disability, which is not really a disability. It is a superpower. It just makes him different. It doesn't make him any less than, and it just
makes me more than the average person
in some ways. Yes.
Yes, it does. I love that hyper focus. I think that's a great superpower to have. I can think about that in the work world and how successful you'll be when you're able to set a goal and focus on it. So that's amazing, Ethan. Thank you for sharing.
And this isn't really connected to my disabilities, but it also allows me to focus on athleticism, like running or, tennis.
Yes, tennis. That's why you're good at tennis, right?
Yep.
Well, that's a good segue to you, Lisa, because I wanted to get your answer to this question. And obviously there's a broad spectrum for autism. So Ethan is sort of one type of person with autism, but why is it important for us to have more of that awareness and acceptance of people who are on all parts of the spectrum?
It's a great question, and thank you, Ethan, for your wonderful superpowers. I love your ability to focus, hyper focus. Facilities and coaches often ask me, well, what is it like, to run a program for such a wide range of individuals on the spectrum when you haven't, children such as Ethan who are very social and verbal and very articulate and bright. And, you also have some participants who maybe are non-speaking or non-verbal, but they may have gifted IQ. And then you have some who have an intellectual challenge or disability. So it is a big range. And I believe that tennis provides those opportunities for the communities to learn about this, and it's all about inclusion. So, when we went to the US Open, like Felicia mentioned, it's a big, big tournament. And there were fans who were walking by and happened to stop by. I remember seeing them, kind of walking through the stands on court 17 and seeing, wow, these are children who are maybe have differing abilities, or as we say, neurodiversity or neurodivergent now, but they're still able to participate in our sport. And in fact, some succeed in this sport. I mean, I personally think there are some professional players who may be, potentially a bit on the spectrum. They can focus on the tennis ball. So like I said, we're all connected. And I think just the fact that we have tennis as a sport and like you said, Laura, with embracing it's for all, and it's for everyone. And so just because you have autism doesn't mean that you cannot play tennis and you can participate like everyone else. And so I feel like, maybe we do provide some modifications or extra support for some areas that we need work on. But I guess that would be my answer. To me, I'm much more about not just like love serving autism adaptive tennis, but how can we include these special, amazing children and adults into society, and what we learn in tennis, we want it to carry over into our daily life. So
I love that. I love that a lot. And I do want to sort of piggyback on what you just said, that we often hear say that tennis is the sport of a lifetime and that it's open for all. We like to say that a lot. And I really wanted to hear your perspective, Felicia, as a parent of a child who has autism. What was it about tennis that made it a sport that you felt Ethan should play? And how has it helped your family in terms of Ethan's superpowers?
So I think that it was not necessarily tennis that led us. It was Lisa and her programs. So sorry. That she not only values all of their differences and embraces all of their differences, like she illustrated in the varied, once you've met, the motto goes, once you've met a child on the spectrum, you've met one child on the spectrum. There's no two children in the world that are alike, and especially not with those who have challenges like autism spectrum disorder. I'm good. I stopped. I'm good. So, I think that it just happened as it's a happy coincidence. I think that tennis helps Ethan in a number of ways, especially because of the Love Serving Autism program and the social aspects of it. But, certainly hand-eye coordination and balance. And I mean, I'm sure there's more things that I'm not even thinking about right now. But the ability to just have fun and be a kid and learn something that can help him, as Lisa also said, that can carry on throughout his life and not just be for tennis, but for everything.
That's the beauty of tennis, is that you can really play it your whole life, where some other sports, you age out of it and then you're lost. But tennis is one of those things you can play for forever, really. Ethan, what do you like most about tennis, and how do you feel when you're playing tennis?
Well, it's basically just pure happiness. I don't really have to care about anything else. I just play until I feel tired. And it really just helps me concentrate on the good things in life, like tennis, video games, school, all that.
Exercise, fresh air, friends. Right?
And I have to say it was challenging for me, because I started Love Serving Autism, and when we expanded, I was no longer Ethan's coach or the coach for all the kids. And so I really loved that. My happy time is on the court, like the Miami Open, Laura, you saw us, thankfully you were there on Friday. We had an event, and it was just one of those, that's my happy place, is seeing Ethan and seeing the kids on the court. So it's been a little tough for me, in a way, because now I'm training coaches, and the coaches are doing a phenomenal job. But, initially it was, where's Coach Lisa? Where's Miss Lisa? Because I was that constant person. And I think Ethan and the kids, a lot of times they rely on that structure and that routine. That's something they know that's going to happen. And so I just wanted to say that I do miss seeing you, Ethan, on the tennis court, because I know I see pictures, your mom sends me photos. So it makes me happy to see those.
Well, I know, Lisa, you and I talk about that a lot, where, I mean, that was my happy place too. I mean, just being out there and being around people who are having a great time, and hearing Ethan's answer that tennis is just pure joy. I mean, that's why we do what we do, right? And so we have to make sure we're making space to have that pure joy. All of us, as life kind of throws responsibilities at us, we have. So Ethan, you gave us all really good advice right then. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lisa, back to you for just a minute. You talked about how much joy you got from teaching, Ethan and other students. When you look at the students that you've taught and those who are playing tennis, could you talk a little bit about how the physical activity of tennis helps those on the spectrum? Like, what do you observe in terms of how people with autism may benefit from playing a sport like tennis?
Well, tennis is obviously great exercise. We did have a participant who went to the US Open, and his parents had said just training in tennis, he had lost around 40 to 50 pounds just in preparation for the US Open. He was a high school student, so they couldn't believe he actually loved it because he loved to play video games. And so this was a great outlet for him. I also have to say tennis helps regulate like the motor planning skills. So like Felicia had mentioned, the coordination, the balance, the agility. And I also think when you regulate your sensory or your central nervous system, it also helps with your behavior and language skills. So being a speech therapist, a lot of times we work directly with occupational therapists. Children may receive 30 minutes of OT followed by 30 minutes of speech because once you get your bodies moving and regulated, it helps you with your ability to communicate. So I think that there are many variables and like reasons of why tennis, how it benefits, Ethan and the kids. But I've also received reports from parents, like after a tennis camp we did in Palm Beach Gardens in the summer and the fall, it was a full day. And when they got home, parents were reporting, wow, my child was so much calmer. And, and that made me happy to realize, okay, tennis, and I know when I play, it's therapeutic too. When I get out once in a while with my husband, Kyle, it does help with our stress levels and overall well-being. So.
You saw, I mean, just watching the Miami Open event unfold over the course of an hour, you really saw that in real time of, the kids coming in, and they were, they had a anxiety and were moving around a lot. And then as the day went on and the activities progressed, you just sort of felt this sense of like calm and happiness, right? It was sort of like a calm happiness, and everybody had such a sense of joy. So it went kind of from like a little stressful and anxiety to like calm and happy. And you saw that in real time over the course of an hour, which was just so beautiful to watch.
Yes, and these were children who I didn't know. They're from Miami, so this was a new experience for them, plus meeting me, plus the coaches. So it's great, I think, because it teaches resilient, you have to be resilient and flexible with your thinking too. It's more spontaneous. Like, I know Ethan, he likes to schedule, like we all like our schedules, but life isn't always perfectly planned. So when we do events outside like that, I think it's great for someone on the spectrum because they have to learn, okay, I have to adapt to this situation, even though it's a lot of stimulation going on. And I did see that, Laura, that by the end of the hour, they were very calm and it was a big difference, from the beginning to the end. So
it was wonderful. Felicia, I want to come back to you for a minute, and I want to ask you, what is the most important thing for our coaches to know in terms of working with a family that is living with autism, and what kind of tennis play opportunities would you and Ethan like to see more of?
Ethan, can you come back and help me answer that question?
I have a question after this.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. I guess the biggest takeaway is what I mentioned before is, the once you've met a child on the spectrum, you've met one child on the spectrum. So I think it's really important just to keep an open mind, because every child is different, just like every child without autism is different. So not to expect them all to be coming from the same place. I mean, I think they all have different abilities. My son in particular is very opinionated and likes to do things the way he likes to do them. So patience.
Very true.
Patience is essential, and just not to engage in an argument because it doesn't, it's not helpful. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to say, sometimes it can be perceived as an argument that he wants to do it his way, even though he's supposed to be there to learn something. So the anxiety is what is coming out. His difficulty with transitions is what is surfacing. And so while he may be hyper-focused on what he wants to do, I think if we just take a step back and realize that it's coming from a place of anxiety and challenges with transitions, as opposed to being argumentative, that we don't engage in that conversation, and we can take a perspective. And I'm sure, as a professional, Lisa has a better understanding about how to elucidate what I'm sharing. But I fall into the trap sometimes of arguing with him, and trying to get him to do what I want him to do.
And it never works.
Can you sit down, please?
No.
Okay. So, for instance,
Ethan, I thought you had a question. Do you have
Yeah,
a question for us?
Yeah,
Come
it's
ask.
after hers.
oh, you mean your question comes next? Is that what?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes. So then I can ask my question. Ethan, are you ready?
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So my last question is for you. Where is your favorite place to play tennis, and who are your favorite people to play with?
Well, Serving Autism, and their main location.
For you
Yeah.
in our area.
Yeah.
Those are your favorites.
Is where? Do you know where it is?
It's the pickleball and tennis center.
The Palm Beach Gardens?
That's right.
Pickleball
In Palm Beach Gardens. So we live in Jupiter, which is a neighboring town to Palm Beach Gardens. I actually went to high school in Palm Beach Gardens, so it's like coming home.
Oh,
for
that's
us.
amazing.
To answer one of the questions I didn't answer that you had asked, what kind of tennis play opportunities would you like to see more of? I think that Lisa has done an incredible job growing Love Serving Autism across the country in like rapid pace. I mean, like it has exploded. And I think she just needs more help than we can give her right now. Like I want to be more available to her because I think that kids like Ethan need to be able to go from one level to another level, to take his sport, his skills to another level is what I'm trying to say. And I think that would be really great once we can get the funding in place for Lisa to be able to offer that, to answer your question. Was there anything?
That's a great comment. It was something I was going to say at the end, but I'm going to say it right now, because I think if you're listening to this podcast and, you want to know, hey, how can I get involved? Lisa uses a lot of volunteers to run her programs. They are critical to a lot of what we do. So if you have a passion and desire to volunteer, please raise your hand. You can reach out to me at any time. You can reach out to Lisa, but we would love to have more people come out and help with programs and activations and things that we do, because it really makes the ship go, right, Lisa?
And I think back to Felicia's point, Ethan is right on that border of, how do we create an inclusive class and environment for him with some mild modifications, in training coaches who can teach both maybe neurotypical and a child with autism all integrated together. I think that's the next step because, yes, Ethan, do you have a question?
No, she said to raise my hand if I wanted to volunteer.
Oh.
Thank you, Ethan.
Okay, sounds
you
good.
You are on the list now.
Okay, continue.
Well, we could honestly, I just appreciate so much all of you and what you do every day, and we'll continue to support Lisa, her programs. Love that you guys are really so supportive of tennis, and of course, if there's anything else that I can do. I love volunteering. I wish I didn't live as far away, but I know we're trying to do more things here in Central Florida. So Hopefully I can get out there a little bit more because it'll be a little closer. But is there anything else you guys would like our audience to know about Love Serving Autism or Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month? Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience?
I guess I would just say thank you, number one, for the opportunity to speak and for having us join you. I would like to thank Lisa for everything that she does. She is tireless. I don't know where she gets all of her energy. I mean, I'm in awe of her, and I'm very thankful for everything that she's provided my son and all of the kids, not just in Florida, but I mean,
Everywhere.
everywhere. I mean, yes. So please support Love Serving Autism. That's what I would say. And the USTA, of course.
Yeah.
And Lisa, any final thoughts from you or any asks you have of our audience today?
Sure. I know this is a special month, but to me, this is every month. So I know we're highlighting Autism Awareness Acceptance Month in April, but I feel like we should be doing this every day. And hopefully this is continuing to raise awareness, like Felicia said, for the next level of acceptance. Whether you're a coach, whether you're a family member who has a grandson with autism, whomever it is, I just think that we're making progress. Even with USTA National, we're creating coaches curriculum currently, for this purpose. So doors are opening, which is great. It's taking time, but as a team, I believe we can get it accomplished. So
that's a great note to end on. I think we all need a little more acceptance in the world right now. We live in a very judgy world, and it's very nice when we can reach out to people who are different, no matter what the difference, and say, I accept you for who you are and for all your superpowers, right? Ethan, we all have superpowers. So I'm going to start using that more in my language too. But thank you so much for joining me today. I, again, appreciate all that you all do, and I'm very grateful. I'm grateful to know you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
For those of you who are listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, feel free to go over to USTA Florida's YouTube channel or to our Facebook page, where you can see the full video version. And of course, for more information on Love Serving Autism, you can visit their website at loveservingautism.org. And of course, you can find all of the episodes of the Here to Serve podcast, including topics, dates, and guests on USTAFlorida.com/here to serve. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.